What's going on, guys, and welcome to another tutorial here on our channel, The Guide. My name is Valerio, and before we get into the video today, a quick reminder that if you want to join our Discord server with a bunch of like-minded individuals who are also looking to get better at FIFA, or if you want to follow us on Instagram for more diverse content, check the links in the description down below. Today, however, we're gonna be talking about dribbling, and more specifically a mechanic called slow dribbling. And it's a new mechanic in terms of there are new inputs to perform this, because similar if not exact mechanics existed in previous FIFAs, but again, the buttons changed. So today we're not only going to show you the new buttons, but also how to effectively use it in the FIFA 20 meta. It definitely took some practice to get used to it, but it's definitely something worth learning so that you can generate more time and space, particularly in those tough games against a crowded defense where time and space are hard to come by. So let's jump straight into how to perform it. As you can see on the screen during this little skill game with Neymar, I'm currently left stick dribbling normally as anybody would, without sprinting or doing anything else. Now it's important to show this, as this will be in huge contrast to the slow dribbling feature, which will be the main focus, of course, of the tutorial today. And before we do show the slow dribbling, pay close attention to the pace Neymar dribbles at just using the left stick and the frequency with which he taps the ball. And now finally, as you can see by the difference in speed in animations, my movement has changed and I am now using the slow dribbling feature. And to use the slow dribble, move the left stick as you normally would while moving with the normal left stick dribbling, but also make sure that you are pressing L2 and R2 on PlayStation or LT and RT on Xbox. As you can see, by doing so, the dribbling has now, as the name suggests, slowed down quite significantly. And this is very similar to the feature we had in previous years, where we would simply hold down L1 or LT and have close control of the ball, but now it has been moved down to the lower bumpers of the controller. It can be quite uncomfortable depending on how you hold your controller. It was difficult for myself as well, but as you can see, the speed is completely different. The player on the ball touches it more frequently, and this will allow you to be more in control of the ball, and you'll have more windows of opportunities to pass, to dribble when under pressure, and in general get rid of the ball when in times, if you did the same thing with normal left stick dribbling, sometimes there could be a little bit more of a delay. Now, let's get into how to use it to the best of its abilities. As I mentioned earlier, I've always been a big fan of left stick dribbling, but the issues I've run into this FIFA have made that aspect of the game quite a challenge. With the dribbling feeling different this year, it was hard for me to keep doing what I've always done, which is being able to left stick freely all over the pitch with confidence. As a result, I've had to adapt and be very careful of where I was dribbling, or I would end up losing control of the ball carelessly, running into opponents without realizing that I never really had the chance to left stick. Past few weeks, however, with me testing out the slow dribbling in FIFA 20 have, on the other hand, allowed me to go back to my roots a little bit. Learning how to use it have helped me dribble more freely around more areas of the pitch without carelessly, again, running into my opponents or giving my opponents opportunities to tackle me. There are a few ways to use this feature, so I want to slowly build up to what I believe is truly the best use. The first way I started using it as a means to keep the ball revolves around keeping the ball close to your feet, of course, and dribbling away from pressure. And I'm usually in this position with the fullbacks or wingers, but essentially this can happen all over the field. Here, as you can see, we can start an attack really quickly with the keeper, and we feed the ball to our Santi Cazorla with our opponent in clear sight. However, he is ready to approach us, and I immediately hold down both bumpers to initiate the slow dribble. The idea here is to be prepared to move not necessarily faster or further than I would be with normal left stick dribbling, but with more responsiveness. Our first movement downwards allows us to make the first move while also being conscious that this slow dribbling feature will give us an opportunity to also make a second move without being worried about losing the ball. The opponent overcommits, and the slow dribbling feature gives us the guarantee to again make the second move after the initial first move downwards, and we move up completely clear of his pressure. The risk of using the dribble this way is that you might also overdo it sometimes, and eventually the opponent will be onto you if you keep turning left and right too frequently, because you will be stationary so he can come back and tackle you. Alternatively, you could also forget about your surroundings and accidentally run into an AI player of the opposing team. Now, this is only the first way one will typically start using the slow dribbling feature, and it led to the second method, at least for myself, in which I found works on diminishing the risks that we just mentioned. This method revolves around the idea to use the slow dribble to bait the pressure until the very last moment, and then transitioning into a sprint. This allows you to have full control until you feel the opponent getting really close to you from behind or to your side, and then letting go of the slow dribble commands and just using R2 or RT to change the pace dramatically and leaving your opponent behind. In this clip, we're on the wing with Butragueño, and we invite our opponent to pressure us into the corner as we perform a bit of slow dribbling that allows us to keep the ball really close. As soon as we notice the defender is close enough and thus stops moving a lot because he doesn't have to track anymore, he's already behind us, we let go of the L2 or LT button and only have the R2 or RT button pressed, which allows us an explosive exit. The result gives us a few meters of breathing space, all in a matter of a tiny instant, which then allows us to calmly find the option in the middle of the box with the easy finish. And finally, the work put into testing this feature for me really reaped its rewards when I realized the best way to use slow dribbling, at least in terms of how often I could apply it, because after all, the first two situations we talked about are contextual and specific to very certain scenarios. The idea here is to use it to double your time. And I started enjoying the strengths of slow dribbling when this concept became a focal point of my attacks. Because as useful as it was to weave and fake around players in instances where they were pressuring from behind and combining it with the sprint, it still didn't help in chance creation as much as I would have liked. Now, with the mixture of how good dribbling works this year and with how your teammates can take a really long time to show themselves for a good, clear-cut pass, combined with a good amount of online opponents playing with some sort of low depth or drop back tactic, space and time are hard to come by. And as I mentioned earlier, you risk losing the ball because you're looking around for a pass and you end up dribbling carelessly into an opponent. Using slow dribbling in chance creation and in the build-up, not to dribble past someone, but to delay the moment which you will be really close to an opposing defender in front of you by as much as possible, will help you have much more time and space to think of your next move, allow for the necessary time to pass so that you can find a good option with your teammates, and potentially you can even make your opponent struggle to realize when to tackle because the ball is so close to your feet. Now, a few examples can clearly show the benefits of slow dribbling, starting here where we find ourselves with Butragueño, and for a split second I wanted to pass the ball downwards to Figo, but I was thrown off by our opponent being there, giving signs of wanting to cut that passing lane. So I start slow dribbling as a response, and this is to buy myself some time to see how everything plays out. And the opponent does back off, but the pass to Figo is not on anymore because of the offensive AI, how it works, and Figo moving back. Had I been left stick dribbling, normally I'd not only leave myself more open to being tackled because the ball is further away from my feet, but I would have less time to react and see how everything plays out. And eventually, despite not really having options, I find a way out, we move back, and I make my way back into the center at the perfect time to create a good chance. Here is a really good example of how it allowed me to play a pass that I could only pull off by waiting the necessary amount of time. And on the bottom right of the screen, there is a ton of space, and our player, who is currently being blocked by the player name bar of our opponent, is right there, but essentially I missed the window of opportunity to make this pass, and he is currently in an offside position, or really close to being offside. However, I knew that waiting long enough would give me a second window of opportunity to play into that space, and I knew that simply left stick dribbling would put me far too close to my opponents, who would then easily block a lob through pass or normal through pass. And standing still was also not an option because it would essentially invite way too much pressure. We then go with the slow dribble, which buys us time while at the same time keeping the opponent at bay because he's not really keen on pressuring us, and eventually we buy enough time to play the pass that we initially missed. And finally, in this clip, we find ourselves on the byline, but there aren't any options. Everything is blocked and we have to wait it out unless we're fine with just having a corner. But obviously nothing buys you time better than slow dribbling. This time, however, you could actually even make the argument that I could have just stood still, given the fact that our opponent is not selecting anyone near us and is not really giving any signs that he's about to press me. He's fine with me standing there. But the reason that slow dribbling takes the cake, not only is it because it allows me to push the last few millimeters with control if I decide to push up, is that simply standing isn't enough. We want to reposition ourselves and face the space that is currently towards the left hand side and not in the middle where everyone is crowded. Otherwise, we close ourselves off only to pass in said middle of the box. And as soon as we see our Butragueño is going to run into that space slightly towards the left, we let go of slow dribble, our body's already facing that direction, and we play the through pass into the space for the easy finish. If you're struggling to left stick dribble because you run into opponents too much, particularly because you find yourselves looking for passes but nothing opens up, slow dribbling can be an alternative to buy yourself that time and create moments of safety within your build-up or in chance creation. Before practicing this dribbling mechanic, the only way I was able to circumvent the challenge of playing in tight spaces against a team with a deep defensive line where time was scarce and passing options were closed off was through patiently passing the ball around. With this, you have an extra tool in your arsenal so you can mix it up and you can patiently wait for the right moments to strike. You'd be surprised how much opens up just by having those extra few seconds that this dribbling feature can get you. That's going to be it from me today, so I hope this was useful for you guys, and if it was, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys next time. We also want to thank our elite supporters over on Patreon, and if you're interested, you can become a patron today to support the channel as well as receive cool benefits in return over at patreon.com/BPG The Guide.